Yeah, baby, it's a Porsche.
This project's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna spend so much time on it.
75 years later.
If that sounds familiar, then Eastwood's got a product designed just for you. This is a fast etch rust remover. So when you got a project sitting around for years to get some surface rust on it, this is supposed to take the rust off the metal without having to do a whole bunch of grinding and taking away the actual metal itself. We're gonna test it out. To start off this test, we're gonna take our fast etch and we're gonna put it on this here sheet of metal that's got some surface rust on it. This is one of those cash grabs at the local metal mart, you know. It's got a little bit of rust here from some other metal sitting on top of it with water in between. It's got a little bit deeper pitting and things like that. So we'll see what this will do. Once you've gotten the etch done and the rust is removed, you're gonna wanna clean off the surface with a pre-prep, like a wax and grease remover. That helps neutralize the acid in this. Leaves you with a nice clean surface that you can prime. We're gonna set this thing up in kind of a grid. We'll section it off and we'll do a spot where we're just gonna pour it on, see what time does to it. We'll put another section where we'll pour it on, use a little scratchy pad, see what that does with it. And we could try out some other things, some wire brushes, sandpaper, all kinds of different things to see what we need to do. But I'm looking for what is the easiest step. So hopefully just pouring this on bare rusty metal is gonna help eat off the rust, neutralize it. That way we have a clean surface to work with in the future. Let's find out. This stuff is acid based, so that means glove up, it's gonna burn your skin. Now to apply it, you can pour it on, you can brush it on. I'm gonna opt for one of these little pump sprayer guys to put it onto the surface. This thing has metal components in it, so if you leave this material inside of here and don't wash it out with water or wax and grease remover afterwards, she ain't gonna be no good no more. Doesn't really have any smell to it. Acid stuff that I've used in the past, if you got a whiff of it, yeah, it'd get up in there. Ready to party. When you apply this stuff, you need to keep the surface wet for at least 30 minutes. So that means you need to keep reapplying it as long as it takes, or as much as you need, in order to keep it from drying out completely within 30 minutes. Then you can clean it off and see what you got. Or go longer if you need to get off more rust. But we're gonna try out our first step of just keeping it wet for the next 30 minutes. So on this side, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna let it sit. On this side, I'm gonna run a red scratch pad around on it a little bit and see if it, oh my goodness, it just immediately takes off all the rust. Wow, look at that. I imagine you guys can see that red juice flowing around there. Holy cow. I don't think we're gonna need 30 minutes with this. I'm using barely any pressure whatsoever. I'm just kind of moving it around to see what it does. And it is cleaning it up very quickly. Holy cow, man. I am impressed. Wow. Grab a rag. It has not been 30 minutes. It's been like 2 seconds, but I just want to see what spraying it and wiping it off with a Scotch-Brite pad does in the very short term. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. I say it. Whoa, that's wild, man. All right, I'm gonna give that side the full 30 minutes, let it cook without me touching it whatsoever. Then we'll wipe it off with a rag and neutralize it and see what we're working with. But it's crazy, man. It's been about 5 minutes and our no-touch side is starting to get a little bit spotty as far as dampness. I'm gonna give it one more spritz, just so we can say we kept it wet for the whole time. This side, man, it's crazy. Like, so this stuff leaves a zinc phosphate coating on it, and it's already, I assume, coated. I don't know. It looks like beautiful, clean, brand new metal. Impressive. We're getting close to that 30-minute mark, so I'm going to start prepping this thing for cleanup. I had my sprayer filled up with this fast etch business. Now I'm just going to dump the excess of this into the bottle. Then I'm going to use their pre-painting prep that they sent me, which is basically a wax and grease remover. I'm going to put that in the same sprayer so that it cleans it while it helps neutralize everything out here. Genius, right? Here's what the surface looks like before I wipe off any of this acid. I don't think you could probably see it in the video, but there seems to be like little bitty bubblings going on here and there. I don't know if I could capture that, but there is a bubble happening here. Bubbling of the guts of the metal. So I guess that's the acid actively eating stuff up. The acid ran down the metal while I was working on it. You see that sweet line of crystal clear metal amongst all the rust? I'd say this stuff works. All right, all of the acid is off, so I'm just gonna coat this bad boy, drown it. This painting pre-prep waxy grease remover. This neutralizes the acid and cleans up your mess. Let's just put it on the whole thing, see what we end up with. Woo, man. This side I scrubbed with a red scratch pad. This side I did absolutely nothing. Can you tell the difference?
So you don't need to have any sort of agitation while doing it. It works.
I mean, hanging out with you, so I got plenty of agitation.
Oh, ew.
Test number one. You can see where the tape was on here. The acid didn't sink in through the tape and it left like rust behind it. So evidence, that's what it looked like before, that's what it looked like after. This was with a very light scrub of that, you know, Scotch-Brite pad, and I mean, it's clean as Dickens. This side, I didn't do anything, and it's clean as Dickens. So, on a sheet of metal in a perfect environment, that stuff cleans like a madman. However, in the real world, when you're working on cars, is it ever a perfect environment? Is it nice and flat like this? Is it a clean surface without big old rusty holes in it? Probably not. So we're gonna put this thing to the real test on the crustiest Porsche 356 in existence. This thing has holes. This thing has, well, I mean, it is just a big hole with a little bit of metal on it. Some genius left this thing in bare metal sitting out in the Florida weather. Rain, hurricanes, all kinds of crazy meth heads, and now look at it. It's a big old ball of orange rusticles. No bueno, man. We can't do metal work with that. So hopefully this fast etch will do something about it. I don't know, man. I mean, normally something like this, we would sandblast it. It would take off all that rust, but this metal is thin. It is not thick with two C's. It is thin with all the ends. It is not a strong car. So hopefully this fast etch will do the business. I don't know, man. That surface rust that was on the flat metal that we did before, that was flat. It was on top. It was just a little bit of rust on there. This is penetrating to the core. I mean, this is all up in it. So if that fast etch could take care of this business, man, I'm a true believer. There's nothing like it in the world. We got everything laid out here in the booth, and we're just gonna hose down everything we got. It's all rusty, it's all crusty, but I don't care. We're looking for the easy solution here. Will this stuff take on real heavy duty rust like this? I don't know. It worked great on the flat sheet. Now it's time for the real test. I've gone over the whole car twice with the fluid now and just, you know, sprayed it on, hosed it on. And you can see it's already, like, it is starting to actually turn a lot of bad metal into metal colored metal, but there's still a considerable amount of orange stuff. Wherever there was etching primer, it stripped the etching primer right off of there. I was really surprised at how quickly it took it off, which I'm not upset about that because I have no idea what kind of primer they used on this car. It's probably not something that I would want on there. So, bonus, it strips off whatever that green etching primer was that was on everything. But as far as the super hardcore orange, deep, rough rust, it hasn't seemed to have affected it yet. I think we're gonna grab a scratch pad and give a little go on one of these fenders and see if a little agitation while keeping it all wet helps. Also, this stuff is great for cleaning your concrete. Nice, bonus. El Scratch Pado didn't do much of nothing on this super pitted stuff. As a matter of fact, as soon as I started scrubbing with it, it started disintegrating, as you can see, little chunks of it here and there. So this super rough surface, nope, Scotch-Brite and the acid ain't doing it. That didn't work, so I'm gonna try something a little more aggressive. We're gonna take some 80 grit sandpaper and put that to work with the acid. Paper, acid, I don't know how it's gonna react, but it's definitely more abrasive. I don't want to put in a ton of effort, and I definitely don't want to use any power tools because it'll sling acid everywhere. I can already hear all the internet safety rangers out there. That guy's playing with acid in shorts and a sleeveless shirt. Well, first of all, I'm tougher than you. And second of all, I'm in Florida and I'm sweating. That means my entire body is covered in moisture. And what neutralizes this acid? Water, sweat, H2O, that junk coming out of my body naturally. So I have gotten splashed with the acid, yes, but I'm not burning at all because I'm sweating. So if you're in a really cool, like dry environment, maybe it'll be different for you. You should probably wear some PPE, but yeah, I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind because I'm cool like that. Hitting it with the 80 grit sandpaper is definitely doing something. I'm starting to see a little bit of gray, actual metal. But I think because the metal is so pitted, it's not penetrating down into the depths of each little crevice with that abrasive. Since the sandpaper isn't getting down in the crevices, I'm gonna try a little wire brush and see if that takes any of it off. I don't wanna use power tools on this again because I don't wanna throw acid all over the place. So I'll just use a hand brush, give it a scrubby scrub in this spot next to it. This was sandpaper over here. We tried it with the scratch pad, didn't do squat. We'll try it with the wire brush and see if that does anything. The wire brush was a bit more effective because it was able to get down inside of those pores, but still, it's not really like magically taking it away like it did on the just flat plate metal that we were working on. All the areas that were new metal in the car where they had like some rattle can etching primer on it or something, that cleaned all of that off and that metal looks amazing. But as far as deep pitted rust, it's not gonna like turn it into new metal. It's neutralizing the rust, it's leaving a zinc phosphate coating on it, but it is not gonna take away massive pitting that happens over years and years. As you can see, there is acid all over the place. So I'm gonna spritz the floor down with a little water and kind of neutralize everything that's on the floor that I'm walking around in. That way I'm not tracking acid everywhere. But then I think we're gonna let this sit for another 30 minutes or so, maybe give it another hose down in the acid, and then we're gonna neutralize everything, let it dry, and see what we're working with. Well, here she is in all of her splendor, rust-free, kind of. Anywhere where we had relatively new metal that somebody had, whatever with, had a little bit of surface rust, had a little bit of primer on it, it cleaned it perfectly. This metal is absolutely ready for anything. This metal from 1960, the original stuff that had huge pitting and porous, nasty rust all over it, not so much. It didn't turn it back into perfectly smooth metal. I really wasn't expecting it to, but it did neutralize everything. It turned it into a surface that you can prime and paint, bodywork, and all that kind of stuff. However, we're not doing that on this build. We are obviously doing a bunch of metal work, so we need really clean metal. That means we're gonna still have to take this as a sandblaster, but until then, it's protected and it's not gonna get into worse shape. So, all in all, I would definitely recommend this product for surface rust, light rust, not for things that are massively crusty with big holes in them and everything. But if you got some metal that you need to protect, this is a great product for it, and you can prime over top of it, rock and roll. It's good stuff. Check it out on Eastwood.